Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special day. It is the UK Armed Forces ACC Championship. We're back once more. Apologies for the slight delay in getting onto your screens. We had a little bit of a technical issue on the back end. Plus, as I'm sure everyone in the UK can attest to, the heat is certainly a bit of a kick. Is proven to be difficult to deal with in some cases. However, we are trackside now. We are, of course, joining the racers here for the latter stages of the championship, and we have a change of face. Nathan is not joining us tonight. Instead, we have very popular man in demand, but he's made time for us tonight. Dan Field, how are you doing, buddy?
Hello, I'm alright. I'm just boiling. Hello, everyone watching at home. If you are in the United Kingdom, you are feeling the same pain that myself and Ben are feeling at the minute. But we are surviving, and we're providing this race here today at Spa-Francorchamps. I mean, what a track this is.
It's a beauty. It is a real beauty. Of course, we could wax on about its motorsports history, but the thing that really makes it stand out to me is like you get so many parts of this track that have some standout racing moments. I mean, you have the bus stop chicane. You have places like Blanchimont where you have some very high risk, high reward overtakes. You've got all manner of different opportunities that can be afforded to the drivers, and we are going to see some of those opportunities come to fore here as Jack Simpson is going to be the first driver to start a lap, and we are going to take it play by play. So on board with his Lamborghini Huracan, and immediately out of the gate, he has been a driver that has really turned up the wick in the second half of the season. So he's now coming down to Eau Rouge and Radion right now, keeping the speed nice and high. We are going to, of course, see what the benchmark is before we start to tick things down and start to really get a handle on who to watch. Go down the Kemmel Straight and into Le Com now as we head into the second half of the lap. Let's see what he's got under the hood. Qualifying's an interesting one here, and I don't know about you, Dan, but I tend to look forward to qualifying just as much as the race because there's so many parts of the track that you can extend right down to the millimeter.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't have the experience on ACC, but I mean, just this circuit, you really can get the most out of it, especially through here. Look at how Jack Simpson runs onto the onto the runoff and onto the curbing, really maximizing the track usage. Downhill through Pouhon, arguably one of the best corners in the world of motorsports. It's just so satisfying when you get it right. Jack Simpson looking pretty decent on this lap. As you said, he's using all the circuit, which you really can do around this track. There's also lots of room for improvement if you make a mistake somewhere along the road. Given that this is such a long lap, they'll be aiming for around about 2 minutes, I want to say. Over that, I'm not actually too sure the pace that they've got around here, but yeah, it's a long lap, so a lot of room to find an improvement.
Yeah, there's a long lap, a lot of opportunities to gain, but also to lose. Jack Simpson going to be one of the first to set a time here. We do have a couple of hiccups coming in from the likes of Craig Lure, Pausland in the pits, as well as Dingo in the number 938. Bit of a fan favourite, Dingo there, so we'll be checking back on him momentarily. But for now, into the bus stop chicane. Nice and smooth line as we head out of those final corners, past the pit lane entrance, and first time on the board. What's it going to be? It's a 2-minute 17.1. Will we have anyone go to challenge that? Here's Glenbury, and making his way to the line. He's going to get a 220, but an invalid 220, as David Wrench is going to be our next closest driver, 217.8. And while we didn't get a chance to look at the standings before we jumped trackside, one important thing to note is that if Wrenchy right here, if he beats Bailey, Vernon Higgs, the second driver in the championship, who is now currently making his way out down into Pouhon, if he gets 8 more points, then he has statistically locked out the championship win. It's 185 points for Wrench and 139 points for Vernon Higgs. So quite a gap that is now being peeled out, but it's looking like times are at peak at the 217s, but some drivers tend to be teetering around the 19s at the moment.
It seems like I was well off when I was saying they were doing a 2-minute lap time around here. I'm just getting all my cars mixed up and whatnot. As here's Peter Davidson headed up towards the line now. More lap times are coming out, but a lot of drivers either invalidating a lap or not getting one on the board at all. Peter Davidson, unfortunately, only a 2 minutes 25 there, a long way off of Jack Simpson, of course, in the Lamborghini Huracan. Watch out for that Huracan, because of course it just won its very first 24 hours of Spa, I believe, this weekend just gone. So maybe it's a good luck charm for Jack Simpson today.
Let's see how it fares for him. Matt Steele coming up to the line, 2 minute 23. So quite a large initial spread of drivers as Bailey Vernon Higgs comes across the line, 2 minute 19.032. Stevie Mack coming out of Lecombs and into Marmody as he's out of the Kemmel Straight, just trying to get a grip. And he is a driver who has some really good pace, but sometimes struggles a bit with the consistency. So hopefully he's able to find a handle on that car. In the Ferrari here, here's Craig Lewer going into the bus stop chicane. Number 13, and looking sharp with the black, white and orange. Now smoothly exiting and getting on the power as soon as he possibly can. Not extending too far to the right. I think he's playing it a little bit safe here, as he does want to, at this point, just get a lap on the boards. It's an installation lap for him here, as he has had invalidations and doesn't have anything yet. 6 of the drivers out there haven't got a time down. It's only the top 9.
It's a bit of a McLaren looking livery on that Ferrari, isn't it? With the orange right on the top and then the white and the black. It's very McLaren colours there. As Ethan Lee, I believe, has he just come to the line, or is he starting?
He's just come to the
another
line here.
lap now? 2 minute 19.077. So that's good enough for 4th position, but that's 3 seconds off the top. Jack Simpson has set another lap time now, a 2 minute 16. Seems like Simpson and Wrench are in sort of their own race at the minute, or qualifying, I should say.
Simpson has been a driver who really knows how to extract maximum pace out of his car there. But looks like we do have a minor technical issue, as that is going to be George Biel looking like he's disconnected from the session. He's going to be dropping out over there, and yeah, so he's completely disappeared from the timing order. So unfortunate to see. Hopefully he gets back in ASAP, because otherwise he's going to be in some serious trouble when it comes to race start. Jack Simpson teetering on the line of a improvement here. Of course, Sector 2, best last time out, but it's Sectors 1 and 3 that he dropped down. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have a mid-16, at least physically possible, on the cards as we go through. But eyes for me, personally, eyes for me are on Wrench, just because in the race trim, he is ruthlessly consistent. He's had 6 wins out of 10 rounds. There's a reason he's wrapping up the championship potentially today, this early, with so many rounds to go. I think it's 2 rounds to go here.
Yeah, I mean, it is fantastic from David Wrench. And whilst his championship rival, quotation marks here, I guess you could say, Vernon Higgs, is just behind him in terms of the timing tower, there's about 1.2 seconds, I believe, a difference between the pair of them, which is a pretty big gap. So, I mean, David Wrench, what a driver, what a performance he's putting up so far in P2, and I believe currently on a lap downhill in towards Rivage, I believe this corner is. Most corners around this circuit do have a name, including this one coming up, which used to aptly be named No Name. I think it's Jackie X corner now. David Wrench once again using all of the circuits on the outside. He's got a couple of cars just in front of him, hopefully, especially downhill through corners where you really do not want to be getting any traffic in front of you. I think he's just about avoided them. They're still in front of him on track, but could be causing some issues for the McLaren.
Yeah, it's a little bit of wobbliness, and one thing that drivers tend to be careful of, particularly around Spa, is when you get onto the throttle on some of these corners, you do sometimes get a little bit of slip angle. You can go a bit too early on throttle, power out too wide, and that's where we see, particularly as we head into the 3rd sector now with Wrench and coming out of Stavolo, you can overextend, as easily done and just easily proven by the McLaren right there. So too much on the throttle, you don't necessarily understeer, but you do run out wider on your exits than you otherwise plan for.
Yeah, disappointing way for the lap to unfold for David Wrench. I think having the other cars in front of him would certainly be a bit of an annoyance to him. He will complete the lap and will head through the final corner now. Just 15 minutes left in qualifying. Still plenty of time to get another lap on the board. And indeed, that will not be an improvement. So that's a lap down the drain for him. Will still have time to recuperate, go back in, get on a fresh set of wheels, and then head out. But it's still Jack Simpson untouched at the top.
And looking like an absolute rocket ship, although he's seen better days on this run. He has still got plenty of time. 14 minutes remain on the clock, and we do, coming up to the halfway point, still have 4 drivers yet to put anything on the boards. We have Dingo, which is, I've got to say, a bit surprising. He is a driver who has been a real showstopper, as we do have him being at the center of attention for a couple of rounds here. But doesn't look like he's doing too hot coming out of the first sector, now going down into No Name and through to Puon. Such a high commitment corner. I think I've only ever seen an overtake through Puon once in my entire commentary career, and I think it's fair to say I lost my mind. I did lose my mind just a little bit, but when you have a corner like that and someone has the gall to go for an overtake and make it stick with no incident, what do you even say? Like, you have to tip the cap at that point.
Yeah, I mean, overtakes through Pawn are very few and far between. I think we might be in the same boat there. I'm pretty sure, though, the one overtake that I have seen at Pawn actually was the first clip in my show reel. So that just goes to show how sort of monumental a moment like that is. But it could be quite difficult in these GT3 cars. We'll see, though. I mean, who knows what this grid can provide. 15 drivers on here. You only need 2 of them to actually make a good race happen. So there's lots and lots of potential for a good race to be upheld. As now here comes Dingo 200, headed through the final couple of corners, now off the exit, the final turn, and approaching the line. What will be the benchmark for him?
To
he comes across
2:20.
the line at 2 minute 20.005. That puts him in 9th position.
Yeah, I mean, that's a solid time there, and with a couple of tenths improvement, he could easily leapfrog the likes of Worley and BL, as it looks like George has returned to the circuit, luckily, and he's managed to immediately regain momentum with a 219.5. So we'll have Craig Fitton potentially on an improvement here, but we'll see how that plays out. He's currently about half a tenth, or half a second, my mistake, on here, and David Brown now crossed the line with a 223.8 alongside Craig Lewer, who just got himself a 223.1. Only remaining driver with a time not on board is George Pausland.
And he's headed now through Malmedy Corner. This is right at the top of the circuit. I always love to give a little fun fact whenever I come to this circuit, is that the elevation change from the very top of the circuit at Malmedy down to the very bottom at Stavilo is 66 meters, or roughly around there, which is the same height as Big Ben. So if you've ever been right near Big Ben and you look at that tower, well, then you're looking at the elevation change of Spa-Francorchamps, and he's going to be experiencing that through Pawn at its finest, because it's a very difficult downhill corner. Unfortunately for George Pausland, he will run off the circuit there. That lap is in the bin for him, and he will have to come back in without a time on the board. Now, when you're coming into the last 10 minutes of qualifying and you've not got a lap at all, there's going to be quite a bit of pressure on him to get the run in the bag.
I think it can be a very destructive cycle sometimes. You get in your own head about not having a lap at this point, so you push harder thinking you're running out of chances. You pushing harder means that you're going to be more likely to go off track and invalidate the next one. So it takes a certain mental fortitude to be able to get that under control and be able to get a stable lap even under these pressured circumstances. We're on board with Ryan Worley, who did have an off through the bus stop chicane and is now on a bit of a recovery as he's setting himself up for the next set of laps. And one thing you'll notice is certainly a striking livery. It's a fan favourite here. Bow before the Colonel as Worley is making his way through. Currently P8, but we'll see if he gets any improvement as time goes on. Renchi going through the bus stop chicane and unfortunately going way too deep, way too hot there, and losing most of the time. So he's going to instead pivot his strategy and get the best exit speed that he possibly can to make this next lap even faster.
I know we're not supposed to have favourites, but after seeing the Colonel livery, I gotta say I'm rooting for that KFC car to do well in this race. As David Wrench, I mean, he's got another lap underway now. 9.5 minutes left to go. and about 0.8 of a second separating himself and pole position. It's a big ask to find that, but around a circuit like Spa, which is so long, as I was alluding to previously, there's so many places where you can find time. So David Wrench, he's got it all to do as he approaches the very top speed area of this circuit, the end of the Kemmel Straight. We'll see the brunt of the overtakes through there coming into the hour-long race, and now it's a downhill descent for David Wrench, and he's got to find every bit of time he can.
As they got to extract every tenth they possibly can here. When he's operating in a case of finding pole position and fighting at the sharp end of the championship, the pressure is on, and you need to extract every single advantage you possibly can get. I mean, look how far he goes onto the curbs, and that is still a legal lap. It's still considered within track limits, but he's really going to be stretching as much as he can out of that car and out of that lap as he's riding every possible curb, taking every possible inch of space to maximize his lines and maximize the track available to him. He's already 0.7 of a second up. Jack Simpson is his main rival. Remember, he needs to make about a second up if he wants to get past Simpson in the Huracan. So far, he's 0.8 of a second. Will he be able to keep up this intensity of the lap? Easily could break at any moment as he now gets onto the third sector. It's looking very clean, but it all comes down to one last spot. He's going to make his way through Blanchimont, and then where so many times before he has faltered, he needs to get this one right. He's going through Blanchimont and then into the bus stop chicane. Watch for that braking point coming up to the corner. He's going to brake just after the overhead, and cleanly executed. Smooth line, no faltering whatsoever. Now jumping on the throttle, perfect moment. Is it going to be enough here? It's just going to be close, and it's a 0.807. He's just under a tenth ahead, but he's in pole. Now, is there going to be a response from Jack Simpson?
Jack Simpson up by 0.2 of a second, and he's still in the very early stages of this lap. It could all go wrong at any moment, though. If he makes one slight slip up, Jack Simpson still up by a tenth, now pretty much breaking even on the time. Just 700 is separating these two drivers. This could go right to the wire, as now Jack Simpson at the bottom of pool and has now got to manage Lafagna. Very tricky to get this absolutely right. You've got to use all the curbing on the inside, then switch the car back towards the left-hand side. Jack Simpson seemingly nailing it, but hasn't found any time. Once more, he's pretty much level, I mean, with his previous best lap, which won't be enough to overtake David Wrench, but it's all in those hundreds, it's all in those thousands, those metrics that are not being shown on your screen. They could be the difference.
Yes, all of those small millimetric adjustments to the car and scrubbing of speed, even just a couple of kilometers an hour, could be the difference between you approaching with a tenth up or being on even field with the deltas. But coming into the bus stop chicane, looking real smooth, and it's 0.3 up as he comes to the line. He could get a 16.5 here. Is it going to happen? It's a 6.50. Simpson is back on top with 6 minutes to go. He is returning to the pole position here in qualifying, and he looks absolutely untouchable. Wrench put out such a good lap, and then Simpson is just going to come sweeping along to make a mess of it.
And that was a yellow sector 2 from Jack Simpson. There is still more time in that Lamborghini Huracan, and I wonder if he's going to come back out and set another lap time and continue to try improve on his previous best. We'll have to wait and see. Here is Vernon Higgs at the minute, slightly dropping down the order since the last time we checked on him, but still in a 5th place position and could find some time on this next lap. I do believe he is on a run, unless this is just an outlap.
Well, let's see here. I mean, reason why I'm trained on Vernon Higgs is we just want a bit of a reminder of the stakes that are at play. Just to keep things in perspective, folks, Wrench is trying to secure the championship tonight. He's got a massive points gauge on Vernon Higgs, and right now, all he needs is a positive 8-point difference on Vernon Higgs to seal the championship tonight, even before the next 2 rounds come to the calendar. If he could seal it today, he's going to be absolutely laughing. So Vernon Higgs has got a lot riding on today's performance. If he wants to stay in that championship contention, or at least prolong the fight for one more round, he needs to perform.
It's a big ask when you consider how strong David Wrench has been so far in qualifying. Roughly about 2 seconds is separating these two drivers across one lap. How is that going to stack up over an hour? We'll have to wait and see, as Bailey Vernon Higgs is now headed into the final corners, I believe, to begin a lap, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's got the run now underway once he crosses the line. Jack Simpson is out on circuit once. Oh no, he's actually coming back into the pit lane, and then we'll hopefully look to come back out. Wrench is in the pits. Here comes Vernon Higgs to begin another lap.
We will see, of course, more laps coming through. Let's going to switch over to Stevie Mack. He's 0.8 of a second up coming through the first sector, but he's taken a big slip and barely holding it together. Four wheels on the grass. He's going to spin sideways onto the track. That is going to be avoiding action from David Brown in the BMW. As Mack was on such a good run, but is now having to abandon it, has no choice. And we'll have to go again. But he's running out of time. He's really only going to get one more good lap in, I think.
He's not going to have the time to go around once more. He's just got to do 2 laps consecutively. I wonder if he's got the fuel in the tank. As here is Jack Simpson, your current provisional pole sitter. With 3 minutes left in this session, he is starting another lap once more. Matt Steele, I believe, has gone off down at La Fagna. That will cause some more traffic for other drivers throughout their lap. But Jack Simpson, all eyes on him, matching his first sector time as it stands. But it's sector 2, where of course he was slower than his previous best on the lap that he's currently on. So Jack Simpson, he's got it all to do in sector 2.
So we will have, of course, more drivers who are pushing even harder. Jack Simpson, unfortunately, going a little bit too wide here, and not quite getting the chance yet to go for the run. However, one we will be seeing is Davidson, as he's got a couple of tenths up here because he's got on a little bit of pressure, but you say running that nice and sharp navy livery, and he's going to be keeping things nice and smooth as we go.
Seems like the McLaren's a very popular car. I feel like most drivers are running that one, and this is a very nice livery that I gotta say for Peter Davidson, with the white and the navy blue. It really does complement each other very nicely. He's complementing this lap very, very well by improving currently by 0.3 of a second. This could see him shoot up the order from about 6th position if he finds the time, possibly into 4th and on the second row of the grid. If he finds even more time, I mean, there's Berry in 3rd position. Still a long way to David Wrench and Jack Simpson. However, Peter Davidson, he's on a strong trajectory as he heads right to the bottom of the circuit, down at Stavelot. Now the foot is flat to the floor off the exit of Paul Frere. And then he's going to take to Blanchimont for what will be, I'd imagine, his final effort in qualifying. And he's improving by 0.9, nearly a whole second on this lap. Peter Davidson is flying as he now heads through Blanchimont, approaching the final braking zone at the bus stop chicane, which isn't really a bus stop anymore, but I think just for heritage's sake it keeps that name. As now through the final 2 corners, Davidson goes, get the power down and approach the line. It will be a 0.9 of a second, 0.8 of a second improvement, and not enough to get himself into 3rd position, but it's a solid P4.
That's still, yeah, very solid result. He's only a 10th shy, unfortunately, from Glyn Bury, but he is still going to be in that fighting contention. And I think that's the most important here as we head ourselves into the final phase of qualifying, the final minute. So realistically, most drivers are now committed to that final lap, and you can't go any further than that. Once that checkered flag falls, you finish your run or you return to the pit lane. No ifs or buts about it. Vernon Higgs returns to the pit lane, so the best that he's going to be getting is a P6. He will not have another chance to go again here, as Matt Steele is going to join him. Jack Simpson, content with his 2:16.650, is going to be up into 1st place, and doesn't look like he's got much in the way of a challenger. Stevie Mack, though, returning to form and redeeming his previous misgivings. He's going to jump up into P7 with a 2:19.142. Excellent closing lap as the checkered flag now falls, and it's time to see the last runs come through.
Come on, Colonel. Come on, Ryan Worley. Headed through now. Pouon currently improving by just a 1/10 of a second. This beautiful Ferrari 296 will take to La Fagna once more. It doesn't seem like anyone will be able to come close to Jack Simpson and David Wrench. So that means Jack Simpson will be starting this race on pole position, but still many places left to be sorted out. Ryan Worley on a knife's edge with his current lap time, as is Dingo, as is David Brown. Lua is finding a second at the minute on his time. Lots of stories left to be told in the mid to low pack. And I believe Ryan Worley will be the first one to come across the line, but a bad run through Blanchimont sees him down by 0.3 of a second.
Yeah, unfortunately they're losing just a little bit of time. Could potentially make it up with a really good chicane, but looks like he came in a little bit hot there, just missing out on the apex, and still recovering a bit more time. Looks like he might come up to just about parity, if slightly behind. There's a 2:20.0, so no improvement there. Craig Lua is going to get a massive improvement, but not an improvement for position, unfortunately, as Stevie Mack is going to be one of the last drivers on a positive delta, as a Dingo is going to come up to the line soon, but the best that he's going to muster is that 2:19.5 that he got early days.
So we'll see what Stevie Mack can do. I believe he's gone for 2 in a row, if he hasn't, if I'm not mistaken. Although a 10th of an improvement, now down by a 10th of a second. This won't see him up any position, so it's looking like a P7 start for Stevie Mack in the number 19 McLaren. But yeah, a very solid qualifying session all round, right in the mid pack, which arguably, especially for such a heavy braking zone down at turn number 1 of La Source, that's really where you don't want to be starting. You got to take care of the cars in front, but then hope you don't get rear-ended by everyone else. So I mean, this could be a very interesting start for Stevie Mack.
And there we have it, folks. So, session is now going to get underway. It's an hour's race, and we are going to have some exciting racing indeed. Before we continue, though, of course, wanted to thank everyone watching thus far, everyone enjoying the show, and, of course, big up the Colonel. I see that in the chat. We see the Dingo, the Dingo lights assemble, and... say I'm just making that one up on the spot, I'm going to be honest with you, but we're going to have some fun tonight. Of course, there is the championship potentially hanging in the balance, but there's all manner of different storylines that are going to be playing out on the track. So let's take your walk for the grid, player by player, piece by piece. We'll also synergize that with the championship, so you know exactly where these players stand. Taking it from the top, it's going to be Jack Simpson, our Quali Masterclass, continuing to impress over the second half of the season. 2 fastest laps to his name, a first, a second and a third, and currently holding at 60 points, making him 8th in the championship. Wrenchy, of course, the championship leader and the guy who had everything running on tonight, needs that positive result in order to seal his fate. 185 points, a massive gap to the next closest competitor. I believe that is 46 points. That is a huge margin. 6 wins out of 10, or 6 wins out of 9 rounds, and 2 third places with 5 fastest laps. It's no wonder he's on top. Limbury, 5th place, 76 points. Only a 2nd place, but has been ruthlessly consistent across a good chunk of the season. And even when technical issues have stopped things from going his way, he's been a formidable force on the track. Hopefully today turns around with little to no issue for him. Peter Davidson in 4th position and 10th in the championship with 21 points. Got a few points finishes here and there, but with the slightly reduced grid, this could be his time to shine. Ethan Lee in 5th position here and in 9th overall in the championship. 2 third places and 56 points, with Vernon Higgs, of course, the main challenger of the championship. 139 points, massive gap, but Mr. Second Place, as we have sort of dubbed him here in the commentary box. 6 second places, where Wrench has got 6 firsts. So that explains where the deficit has come from. Formation laps are getting underway now. Everyone is going to be rolling their way down the hill, and looks like we are only going for a short formation here, but say Stevie Mack, Dingo, George Biel, Ryan Worley, Greg Fitton, George Powsland, David Brown, Craig Lua and Matt Steele. But enough of that, time to go, time to race, and let's see immediately out the gate who's got what it takes. Really strong start from Wrench and Simpson, both getting an early jump, and oh no, that's Ethan Lee! He's going to slide off. Luckily, no casualties into the tyre wall, and certainly saving himself from disaster there, albeit limited limping his way back to the bottom of the order now, as chaos has already erupted. Drag race between Wrench and Simpson as they go into Lecom.
Slight contact front bumper to rear there between Jack Simpson and David Wrench, but they've kept it clean as Simpson leads them through Malmedy for the first time. Wrench in second, Berry in third. They've stayed as they are at the top of the order. It was a brilliant save from Ethan Lee up Eau Rouge, and Radion really could have been disastrous for him there. However, he's able to keep it out of the barriers and continue his race on, as David Wrench, he's in a position where he can just relax. The championship is in the bag as it stands, but still 59 minutes in this race, an hour-long Spa race we've got here today. It could all go wrong, so he's just got to stay consistent, stay focused as he has done all season, and stay behind Jack Simpson. No funny business for him.
No funny business, and just got to keep it clean and on the straight and narrow right now. These first couple of laps are so important to forming a good race here. So let's take a look at Bury, for example. He's in third place, he's kept his nose down, he's kept things relatively clean, and currently is just lying in wait as Wrench and Simpson were jostling for position. He's staying firm in third, and now look at him. He's already gained a second to Davidson as he's under pressure from Vernon Higgs. So it's all the more important to just find some open space and run some clean laps as we go into the starting phase of the race. And once you've found a bit of free run and got a bit of momentum under your belt, then you can start maybe getting the elbows out a bit more.
The main thing in these slightly longer races, not necessarily endurance, but definitely longer than the typical official race or daily race that you might find on games like Assetto Corsa. You've just got to find a rhythm, as there is Matt Steele and there's Lure as well. A little bit of contact between the pair of them there. I hope that that's no malicious intent there. I mean, I'm sure it's just a racing incident, but yeah, unfortunate for the pair of them. But I mean, for these slightly longer races, not necessarily endurance, you've just got to find a rhythm. That's what you got to do, and try not to make any silly mistakes early on, because you've got to stay in the car for a whole hour. Really, it can be quite difficult, and that is the replay of those two down at Blanchemont. Very unfortunate between Matt Steele and Craig Lure.
Yeah, sometimes it just can play out that way, and so unfortunately he was trying to go for a bit of a chase on Ethan Lee, and even after that sort of ended up sloping a little bit to the side, going a little bit wide there, and that's when the two Ferraris ended up collecting each other. So we have Matt Steele into the pits, Lure making the choice to continue in spite of the damage, but Simpson has been undercut on the corner. They got a really good switchback from David Wrench, and he has now taken the lead of the race. I wonder how Simpson is going to respond here, as we know that he can become very aggressive when his dominance is put under scrutiny. So he was very calm and collected when he's in P1, but the minute he gets overtaken, he's not afraid to get fighting.
You can see how much more confidence he's carrying in through the corners, or really how much more aggression he's carrying through the corners. Very deep on the brakes in comparison to David Wrench, who is opting to drive it a little bit more smoothly as they head through Stavelot. Again, Jack Simpson near enough pushing him through the corner, but he's sacrificing his exit by doing that. However, in the slipstream and in the wheel tracks of David Wrench approaching Blanchemont in the final corners, he could mount a challenge in towards the chicane. We're watching on the rear wing of David Wrench, headed now through Blanchemont. Jack Simpson isn't going to be really closing all that much, headed in towards the next right-hander. That could solidify the move. David Wrench does go defensive to the inside line. Nothing Simpson can do there. That was a nice move that David Wrench made, I think, through the Kemmel Straight, and then Simpson tried to fight that one back, but it was just no chance of doing that around the outside of Rivage. So well done to David Wrench.
Oh, really good from Simpson, though, as well. Is not going to be just lying in wait there. He is going to go for it, sends it into La Source, and is going to get the apex under his control. He comes out alongside Wrench. Simpson and Wrench going side by side through a Rouge and Radion. This could get dicey, and no, it has! Too hot, too much punch for Judy, and just like that, Simpson is going to be sideways. There's contact as well with Davidson. He's completely round on track. He's going to return to the pit lane, and just like that, a absolutely raucous fight has ended in disaster, and especially ended in disaster for Wrench, because now Vernon Higgs is joined in, and he's right in his rear view.
How about that? It all unfolds after one move up the inside, and now Jack Simpson, after such a strong qualifying performance from him, loses it by himself. Headed up Eau Rouge and Radion. He went off the racing line where it's a little bit more slick through there, all the tyre marbles, and that was just a rookie error, you got to say, from Jack Simpson. You don't send it in towards La Source because you could just make the move through the Kemmel Straight. It's much safer to do so. And now this has opened the door for Bailey Vernon Higgs, really the big winner in that drama, because David Wrench is coming under pressure from his title rival.
I say Dingo's been one to benefit from this. He's up into P5 right now, and this is what we were saying before about just keeping your head down and running a clean race. He hasn't really had much of any altercations, but even now he stands here in the top 5, currently in a really strong spot with no major pressures either side. If he just keeps things moving in the way that he has, he could get some really solid points. But here comes David Brown as Ryan Worley has had an issue just going in to Stavolo, or into the bottom of Sector 2. He's had a bit of a wobble and gone too deep onto the inside, meaning he's not only going to get under pressure from Brown and overtaken, but Simpson is now on the recovery, and Worley is going to be his first overtake in this sector, making quick work of it. But, I mean, look how hard he's driving. Look how much he's already pushing. This is a driver on a mission.
Absolutely, and of course Jack Simpson in that offing that he had, he's down the inside of David Brown now. You're not going to make a move to the second part of the bus stop chicane, possibly down in towards La Source once more. As he learned his lesson, he's certainly looking towards the inside line, but he's a little bit more patient on the brakes. But yeah, Jack Simpson in that altercation didn't actually pick up any damage, so he's essentially in a field of drivers where he was much quicker than in qualifying. And this is a nice battle shaping up as David Wrenches stretches his advantage up the road. Bailey Vernon Higgs is going to be having to look in his mirror at Glenberry's Mercedes.
Yeah, but advantage doesn't mean points, because he's still second, whether he's 1/10 or 10 seconds. So Vernon Higgs is in the best spot that he can be right now, short of actually being ahead of Wrench. And right now Bury is going to be potentially challenging on him, but is not going for any rash moves just yet. Looks like we're getting a couple of local yellows, as Craig Fitton is going to be going out wide, going into Lecombe and recovering down into P10, with P11 going to Powsland. And I think that's just where he was maybe having a little bit of a wider run going out of Eau Rouge and Radion there.
Chicane is a very tricky part of the circuit, and Powsland, we just looked away from him, and unfortunately he spun it in the exact same spot that we saw Fitton do it. So yeah, it is a very difficult part of the circuit to get right, especially if you carry too much speed through the corner. Then you're off the track trying to recover, trying to get the power down. You can essentially spin your car like Powsland has done, like Fitton has done as well, and he is now back down into P12. But of course, starting last in this race, he's still gained 3 positions, so you know, you got to take the wins in this one, especially when you make a mistake early on. The main thing is to just keep your head down. You've still got 50 minutes left in this race, plenty of time to make up the blunders that you have made, and as long as the car is still on the circuit, you've still got a chance at something. So that's my personal advice to all the drivers on the grid, I suppose. I don't know.
Well, we're just sticking on board with the helicam and seeing how Powsland is managing to recover. We'll also check in with Simpson right now, as he's now going to be making an overtake again, this time on David Brown heading into the bus stop chicane. Nice and cleanly done, making success of what previously was a failure, and now into P7. He's got a lot of time that he's going to have to make up here. He's about 8 seconds, as George Biel is going to be in the pits, 4th driver to do so after Davidson, Steele, Lee. And now we'll be seeing, with 10 minutes into the race now elapsed, we will see who has got what it takes to really push forward here.
And now Simpson has got himself into a nice pocket of clear air, as that is George Powsland down at Blanchemont, spinning the car around. It has been a difficult race for the number 66 McLaren. Another incident for him there. That's at least his second one that we have seen. There might have been some others. But all this drama from the back markers having their own incidents will bring them back into the fold once the leaders catch them. And you can see the number 72, that is Peter Davidson, is out on circuit. And look who's behind him. David Wrench in the number 1 car. That could provide some drama. Here is Davison in his very nicely put together white, I almost said black there, white and blue McLaren 720S. And there is, of course, David Wrench in the background. So, still some opportunity for drama. David Wrench certainly isn't out of the woods yet.
Yeah, so Wrench is still holding on to that advantage, but what he really needs is Vernon Higgs to have some kind of challenge, some kind of problem that brings him away. And he needs those 8 points. He really needs those 8 points to come. And for that to happen, Vernon Higgs is going to have to drop at least out of the podium before he can truly feel comfortable. So we are going to have Palsland into the pits after all of that. As mentioned, George BL is going to be taking a little bit longer in there compared to a traditional pit stop, at least by the looks of things. Looks like we did have a drive-through coming in for the number 63. That's Ethan Lee. That was the reason we went into the pits, rather than going for any kind of mechanicals. He just had to serve the penalty before he got himself into trouble. But Bury now into third comfortably, and with no pressure from the back, is free to attack on Vernon Higgs, and going into La Source is very close. Only a couple of tenths separate them.
It's a nice little fight shaping up between the pair of them, and I think this has been a couple laps in the making now for Glenn Bury, or Berry, however you want to say it. But yeah, up in towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Certainly he does have the advantage in the slipstream, in the wheel tracks of the McLaren. We are on board with Bailey Vernon Higgs headed down the Kemmel Straight once more. However, it doesn't seem like Glenn Bury wants to go for the move. I think he's made his intentions very, very clear. He wants to hang back and not expend his tyres too much, just not get into any trouble really. But that is an unforced error from Bailey Vernon Higgs, and Glenn Bury goes right through.
Yeah, and I think this was the real play for Bury right here. You keep the pressure high, you don't do anything rash, and eventually a window of opportunity will make itself known, which you can very quickly exploit. Bury has done exactly that here. An unforced error, as you so mentioned, has allowed the opportunity for the Mercedes to sweep itself up into P2, and Vernon Higgs is now going to be the one on the back foot. He's not under any threat from Stevie Mack anytime soon, but he is still going to be in a suboptimal position, and with that mistake made, he's actually going to have to take a little bit longer just to get his mindset back in. And the mental of a driver can often be a deceptive but silent killer.
Absolutely. I mean, it is half a racing game, and it's half a mental exercise of just testing yourself, and especially in heat like this. I mean, I'm roasting with a fan on to my right, and you know, no blaring hot sim rig right in front of me. These guys, whatever equipment they're running, whether it be a controller in their hands or a fully fledged direct drive steering wheel, they're certainly going to be in a lot more uncomfortable conditions than you and I, Ben. So I mean, it can be very, very, very difficult for these guys to stay mentally on form, but you've just got to power through it. It is very, very difficult to push yourself. I like to think of it as, you know, when you're at the gym or something and you want to train till failure. A lot of the time it's mental, that you really have to mentally push yourself to keep on going, and I like to think of it as the same with these guys.
It's a hardcore challenge, to put it mildly, and when you have a situation like this, especially when you, as you mentioned, factor in the weather. Now, hopefully, of course, all the drivers are staying safe. They're not putting themselves in any kind of unsafe situations. They're not getting too exposed to too high of a temperature, and they've got a little bit of climate control at the very least. It is still a challenge. You are physically pushing yourself, mentally pushing yourself in these races, and anything into the hour mark, hour 30, 2 hour, it does become an exercise in attrition just as much as it does an exercise in raw pace and ability. It's that balance. It's being able to self-regulate in a lot of ways that is what separates the great drivers from the good ones.
Stay strong, sim racers. Honestly, just stay strong, because it's a difficult time for all of us when you want to be sim racing, and a lot of great events happen in the summertime, but it's so difficult to actually turn up to them. I'm with you. I feel you, and this is Jack Simpson on the back of Dingo. And this will not be a popular move, I gotta say. I'm just looking at the chat for the very first time. I've never been here before on the RAF Twitch channel, but it is very clear to see who the most popular driver on the grid is. Dingo 200. He's got a whole legion of fans right behind him, cheering him on to defend Jack Simpson, your pole sitter, involved in a very early incident. This should be a very fun battle.
There's a Simpson on the back of Dingo right now. Of course, a pole sitter and fastest lap holder currently challenging on to one of the crowd favourites. We'll see how this plays out. I don't know how much is going to be fought between the two, but currently Dingo is on the defensive. Looks like Simpson's trying to edge ever so closer. Now going into Blanchimont, getting even hotter onto the rear view. And we'll see, is he going to go for the move into the bus stop chicane? He's certainly teeing up for it. He's going to get on the brakes and just have to avoid making contact with the rear bumper of the McLaren. That's going to be very close quarters running between the two. Now, Dingo, does he go defensive or is he going to be taking an ideal line? Looks like Simpson's already going to signal his intentions, and he's going to go narrow into La Source. He's going to lay claim to the apex like he did before with Wrench that got him the P1. He's now going to be holding firm and almost countering with the same tactics that we used against him as well.
It doesn't seem like that was a very good exit from Dingo 200 either, off the exit of La Source, so that is the move in the books for Jack Simpson. His recovery drive continues. I want to say he went to about 8th position. Now he's running in a very strong P5. 5.2 seconds is the gap between himself and Stevie Mac, so once more a very nice pocket of clear air for Jack Simpson to run in. But at the pace he's running at the minute, he is on target for a very, very strong finish. And I wonder, could that be the difference if Jack Simpson gets his way up into that fight for third? That could be the difference between securing David Wrench's championship or going into the next round.
So we'll see a couple of position change-ups as Dingo is going to be in 6th right now, of course, from a start in 8th. So very much a positive jump there. There is also the pit stop that needs to be considered in all of this. And throughout everything right now, we do have to bear in mind that we're only coming up to 20 minutes in. A lot can change, particularly in that second half, once everyone's taken their pits and it's a completely different dynamic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the pit stops, you're going to have to explain to me all the strategy today. I know it differs from championship to championship. Is their tyres going to be a factor? I really am in the dark here, so I'm learning on the job, essentially.
Oh, sometimes it's the best way to do it. But we do have an issue. There's Pausland once again having a problem through Lecom. And it seems to be a real pain point for that purple McLaren. I don't know what's going on, or whether there's just a lack of confidence in the car or the setup not quite being there. But Pausland, it seems to be when he comes off the Kemmel straight and he just tries to roll the car through, it seems like he's getting a lot of lift-off oversteer.
Yeah, true that, honestly. A real shame for George Pausland. Another incident for him down at Lecom. That's at least the second time we've seen him go off there. As here is the most popular man on the grid, Dingo 200. Having a nice chill ride at the minute. A very nice livery. That is I gotta say, that's probably the most beautiful livery we've seen today. And of course, that is factoring in, unfortunately, the Colonel car. But that's a very nice McLaren.
I think the Colonel's in a separate category when it comes to liveries. It's apples to oranges. You can't really judge them the same way. Now, Dingo, say, of course, is one of my favourite liveries as well. If I had to rank the liveries, it probably would go Dingo's, followed very closely by Wrench's, RAF Lightning's, McLaren. Really nice. I really, in particular, like, of course, the Sim Racing Centre being part of the design with the yellow accents and it all kind of blending together really nice. Really do like that as well. We do have a couple of interesting liveries, of course, dotted around. You have some that go for a more simple aesthetic, like Stevie Mac with the British Army Esports number 19. You have got, where is he? We have Peter Davidson with that sort of really sharp looking Royal Navy livery as well. And I could go on more and more, but a lot of different liveries making appearances, and actually sort of the livery customization has been new for quite a lot of the drivers here. So it's the first season that we're using some of the back-end tools to deliver these custom liveries on to our screens here. You can see flashing as a warning of danger as Pousland is going to be off to the side. Yeah, of course, for every sort of serious racing livery, you of course also get some very fun ones. I mean, Worley's Colonel wrap, boy, it speaks for itself, doesn't it?
It's just perfect in every single way. You know, bow to the Colonel, I believe it says on the side and on the rear bumper of the car. It's just perfect. It really is. And David Brown could be tattering the legacy by trying to go for a move here on Ryan Worley, but into the corner they go. I think David Brown is fearful of what that Colonel is going to do. You know, he'll get a look of it when he looks left in or looks right when he's alongside him and he sees that angry old man. I mean, I would be bricking it as well. So David Brown remaining in P7. Dingo has come into the pit lane for his pit stop. With 38 minutes left to go, so going slightly earlier than everyone else. I wonder how that undercut will pan out for him. We're checking back in with Bailey Vernon Higgs. They are lapping someone at the minute. One of the BMWs headed now in towards Rivage, and that is not what you want when your rival in the race at the minute, Glenbury, is through on the lap car at one of the most convenient spots down at the end of the Kemmel Straight, and then you've got to follow behind that exact same lapper through some of the slowest corners along this circuit. Very frustrating for Bailey Vernon Higgs.
Yeah, so Vernon Higgs, he's got a bit of a tight spot, but he's still making the best out of his situation, and I am certainly impressed with what he's able to do here right now. He's got a lot of riding on him, as we established earlier on in the race. And we do have a situation where, of course, Simpson is on the charge back now. He's just coming up to the back of Stevie Mack, and then he will be making the gap back up to Vernon Higgs. It's going to be a interesting next 20 minutes for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And this is a very difficult spot to go for the move, but Jack Simpson off the exit of Stavilo will find a route down the inside of Stevie Mack, who had a very slow run off the exit of the corner there. Very opportunistic from Jack Simpson, and now the gap between himself and Bailey Vernon Higgs is at just 11.3 seconds. There's a couple of lap drivers in between them as well, so they will certainly factor into how this race pans out. But Jack Simpson, the recovery driver that we are seeing, is very, very promising. He's done spectacularly well to get the car beneath him after the mistake that he made very early on, which saw him spinning out, having a little bit of contact with Wrench, and also ruining Peter Davidson's race, who's now right down in 14th position. So yeah, it's a strong performance from Jack Simpson.
Really strong performance indeed. Unfortunately, we do say goodbye to Pousland in all of this, so we are down to 14 drivers, as you may have noticed from the timing board and from the amount of issues that he's had on the course. It is always a shame to see a driver retire out, but I think in Pousland's case, I think he had, rightfully so, kind of just had enough at that point, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, when you're not fighting for something, it is very, very difficult to stay in the car, especially in this hot weather. It's approaching 8:30 in the evening here in the UK. You're gonna want your dinner if you haven't had it already, so I don't blame George one bit, but you know, it is also very admirable when some drivers like Matt Steele and Peter Davidson, who have been involved in early incidents, remain out on circuit and they keep on racing. They make up the numbers here. Those are some of the most precious drivers and some of the most underappreciated drivers that you really can have, because every moment that you're out on circuit is a moment where you're potentially learning and you're improving as a sim racer, and that's what it's all about. It's just practice. You've got to be out on circuit to find all the time. So yeah, shout out to those guys who have had incidents early on, but they're still running here.
Yeah, it's always a development experience, and every lap is a little bit more to the feather in your cap. It's going to be tough sometimes, but that's racing. That is the nature of the beast, unfortunately for some. And you're never going to find that success 100% of the time. Even the best drivers have their up and down days. So it's about having the grit and the resilience to be able to push through. And that's really one of the core talents of a driver, and sort of a core talent in general of everyone in this roster. Unless you are experiencing terminal issues to the point where you pretty much cannot race anymore, as I think we saw with Pausland. He was having spin after spin after spin. There was clearly something wrong going on there. You keep it going, you keep moving forward, you stick it out, and I mean, like, for every sort of wrench in Vernon Higgs, there's got to be, as we see right now, a Steele and a Davidson, and they are still racing and fighting the good fight as anyone would.
Yeah, once more, shout out to all those guys. Shout out to everyone watching as well. It's a difficult time to be sat in your room watching Twitch when you could be, you know, in front of the fan. I think Wimbledon's on at the minute with a beer in your hand or whatever. So thank you to everyone tuning in here tonight as we are watching George BL and his very nice BMW. One of the more popular cars on the grid I've found by far. There's way more McLarens than any other car on the grid today. But Ben, some more pit stops are coming out. Glenn Bury and Jack Simpson, I think very key, has come in before Vernon Higgs. Their gap, I didn't quite catch it before Jack Simpson came into the pit lane, but I'd imagine with a slight undercut to Vernon Higgs, Jack Simpson will certainly be feeling confident.
So confidence is the name of the game here, and the big issue that I'm seeing with some of the drivers, as particularly in that sort of mid and lower pack, is I think the confidence has certainly wavered, and they're not pushing as hard as maybe they could. Of course, you want to err on the side of caution, because in those positions you're thinking, well, I've already lost, so I might as well just play it safe. And while that's a safe mindset to get into, it's not the one that pushes you the best as a driver.
I mean, I always find that when you're playing not just sim racing, but when you're just playing games, you should always start out a bit more aggressive and then rein it in, because it's so much easier to step back a little bit than it is to step out your comfort zone on what you know is safe. And if they get into a rhythm that's of you know, taking it easy through corners, that's reinforcement to some bad habits, because maybe you're not utilizing all of the circuit where you can. Maybe you're braking a bit too early, you're not getting early enough on the throttle application, so you can really get yourself into some bad habits here. Whereas if you're really pushing the car through every corner, making mistakes, you can rein it in and you can find the optimum place to go, you know, to really set your car. So that is just something for these guys to consider as the two leaders have come into the pit lane. That will unleash Stevie Mack into the lead, Wrench and Vernon Higgs coming into the box, and this will be interesting now because Simpson, where is he on circuit? He's coming through Puon, I believe he is, in the number 29. Indeed he is. We'll see where he comes out in regard to Vernon Higgs.
I'll say Mack in first. I'm surprised that I haven't made a return of the Mack reference all season, but he's here, he's a P1, and he's going to enjoy his time in the sun before the inevitable switch back over. Now, everyone bar 3 drivers have taken a stop into the pit. Mack, Worley and Fitton are your only remaining cars on their initial stints from the start of the race. And we are coming to the halfway point of the session, so drivers tend to gravitate towards this stage of the race to take their stops, to try and get their stops as quote-unquote optimal as possible. Even distribution either side and no variation, so you are for the longest amount of time running the lowest amount and the slowest amount of tire wear. It's the most balanced configuration. Of course, you can go for a early stop and take a longer stint to the end, try and undercut your competition. You can go for a late stop, overcut, splash and dash almost, but you are still going to have to weigh up your options carefully, especially as we see in some top flight racing. It can be just as important to get yourself out of traffic and save yourself time through slight compromises to your pit strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I Personally, I always prefer to go a little bit later in terms of the pit stop and then really push towards the end of the race when you're lightest on fuel, but you've still got slightly fresher tyres than your rivals. But everyone has their preferences as we have reached the exact halfway point of this race. Stevie Mack still yet to come into the box, as has Ryan Worley and Fitton. So those are the three drivers who are like-minded with myself. However, I am abhorrent at racing games, so maybe they don't want to be taking a page out of my book. Nevertheless, David Wrench is 8 seconds clear of Vernon Higgs at the minute, who interestingly enough has cleared Glyn Bury by 2 seconds, and now Jack Simpson is within 5 seconds of the Mercedes at the minute. There might have been a mistake on the in lap from Bury, and that is why, or the outlap, sorry, from Bury, and that's why that Vernon Higgs has been able to overcut him. Nevertheless, though, Jack Simpson is reeling in his next target.
Simpson is, like we said, on a mission. He's on the hunt, and he's not going to be subsiding his fight anytime soon. Even with the pit stop now under his belt, he's going to be cruising and pushing forward to try and gain the time back. He largely synced up with the rest of the field, but he's not going to be deterred by his earlier situation. He's already made up so much time, and he is technically in P4 right now with a closer gap than he previously had. Bury is going to be, of course, the interloper in all of this. He's going to be the middleman, and right now I'm a little bit nervous, as it looks like, wait, hang on a second, Wrench has gone into the pits. Something's happened here. Why is he going into the pits for a second time?
There must be a drive-through penalty or something of the sorts. Why would he come back into the pit lane? That would unleash Bailey Vernon Higgs commandingly now into the net race lead. What has happened with David Wrench? That is so peculiar, and the only thing I can think of is that he's got a drive-through penalty. That is it, unless he's done something wrong with his pit stop. Maybe he's not fueled up enough. I have no clue whatsoever, but essentially this has handed the race to Vernon Higgs.
Yeah, this is all but handed over on a silver platter, and we're only going to find out truly once we get the penalty log coming through on the back end with all the telemetry and data right now. But it's a tough day for Wrench. There's a lot rode on this. He did need this race to go nigh perfectly. So we're just going to see right now. We're just going to stick with him for a moment and confirm whether he is actually going for a pit stop or whether there is just a simple case of a drive-through being executed. So going across now, and looks like it is just a drive-through penalty, but said drive-through penalty has completely eliminated his chances of fighting at the sharp end. Even Jack Simpson, throughout the issues he had, it was only a collision. That is a minimal deficit to overcome in the grand scheme of things.
I'm just wondering what sort of penalty commands a drive-through a drive-through, and I think that must be for track limits. David Brown has extended possibly on his outlap, trying to get the tyres up to temperature. He's made a mistake somewhere along the road, and he's picked up I think it's the 4th warning that you get on this game is a drive-through penalty. So that puts Vernon Higgs into the lead. However, Glyn Bury is just, oh dear, oh dingo. He's gone off. That's down at Puon, I believe that is. Very unfortunate. But yeah, Vernon Higgs is within a second. Sorry, Bury's within a second of Vernon Higgs. And then Jack Simpson is continuing to catch the number 87 Mercedes. Now the gap between them is about 2.5 seconds. And very, very soon we could see a 3-car fight for the lead.
So 3-car fight could be on the cards, as Bury is going to be trying his best to close the gap between himself and Vernon Higgs. At the same time, Simpson is continuing to reel in, just posted the fastest lap of the session with a 2:17.312. So even post pit stop, he's continuing to push the limits and push the bounds. Now currently on the charge and well within the striking distance of P3 and P2 even. Greg Fitton and Stevie Mack finally going into the pits, completing their stops, meaning that we do have finally the true order of things now that we are coming through. BL and Wrench going side by side through Blanchimont. That is a risky move to take, but it is going to be successful in Wrench's case. He just has the apex and control of the corner, BL is forced to step aside, as now he's going to be trying, similarly to Simpson, to regain his position and get a bit of time back.
Yeah, tough break, honestly, for David Wrench, picking up a drive-through penalty. Very unfortunate circumstance for him. Jack Simpson found himself in a very unfortunate circumstances, but has done expertly well to fight his way back up through the field. Now has caught some traffic in front of him. This is down in towards Pooh, and I think this is Ethan Lee right in front of him in the number 63 BMW, a lap down, of course, in 12th position. Although I don't believe there is blue flags, if I'm not mistaken. So, oh, there is actually. So yeah, he's got to get out of the way eventually of Jack Simpson, because he's being held up by him. 2.2 is the gap between Simpson and Bury at the minute, which really hasn't gone down in the time that Simpson has been following in the wheel tracks of the slow BMW.
As Simpson is going to be constantly knocking at the door, practically smashing it down at this stage, as there is going to be a yield from Ethan Lee, of course respecting the blue flags, but making sure that it's only executed when safe to do so. Key sportsmanship point, and of course driver safety. So peeling off to the side there, and now we do have Bury getting within half a second of Vernon Higgs, so there is going to be a real possibility that the two drivers are about to come to blows very, very soon. You can even see Simpson in the background.
Absolutely. This is going to be a stonking battle between these guys, and if they start to fight, well, that will just invite Simpson into the fray even more as they head down in towards Eau Rouge and Radion for the 15th time in this race. We really could see it all kick off. Bury has been close before through the Kemmel Straight, but has never pulled the trigger to go for the move, following in the wheel tracks of the McLaren. Will we see the battle here? He's flashing the lights at Vernon Higgs in front of him, but once more I think the intentions have been made clear for Glyn Bury. He is happy to stay back for the time being, and Bailey Vernon Higgs remains in the lead of this race.
Yeah, I think he's going to see if second verse will work same as the first. Bury on the back of Vernon Higgs, seeing if he can get him to an unforced error, as at times have shown before. Although saying that, Bury is going to go to the inside, now making his way through Brissell and commanding the apex on the way, all the 180 degrees of it, as we now go through into the second sector, and it's looking fast and frenetic. Bury is going to command the corner and take the lead of the race with a very well executed overtake out of Brissell into No Name and confirming through Puon.
And now Vernon Higgs, he can't really go back on the attack, because look who is arriving onto the scene. Jack Simpson in his Huracan is right in the wheel tracks of the McLaren. This could be very, very exciting. Just a lap ago, Simpson made his way through on a lapped car, was about 2.2 seconds behind this fight. He's made that up in one lap and is through curb pull for where they go. What a run for Jack Simpson in his Lamborghini off the exit of the corner. He will pull to the left-hand side of Bailey Vernon Higgs. They're going to run near enough side by side in towards Blanchimont, and I think that the move has been made. Bailey Vernon Higgs, rightfully, well, not rightfully so, but smartly so, backing out of that one, trying to avoid any chance of contact, and Simpson into P2. The recovery drive is nearly complete.
Yeah, Wrench showing much of the same. It's in the background of all of that, David Brown was his next target, and he executed it near flawlessly through Brissell and No Name. And in a similar fashion that we saw with Bury and Vernon Higgs, now David Brown is 1.5 seconds away from David Wrench, as he's going to continue on his forward charge, try and regain the opportunity and regain positions that he can. He needs to get 8 more points than Vernon Higgs to secure the championship, but even staying on even keel, it will make the margins much tighter heading into the next round. So really, it's just about preserving the status quo. If he can't get up ahead, which is seemingly unlikely at this point, we do have 20 minutes to go, but in the grand scheme of sim racing, that is not much time to gain forward. The best I think that he can do here is just preserve what he has, especially when you consider that Worley and Stevie Mac alone have about 45 seconds of gapping to make.
Yeah, absolutely. Just stay consistent, don't get yourself involved in any incident, and you will still pick up points on your main title rival, which of course you could use to fight back, as here is the battle for the lead once more, and this is some poor timing for some traffic to get in the way. The Ferrari is right in front of Glenbury, in through Pouon, essentially parking his car in the middle of the road, and this will be right to the annoyance of the Mercedes. Now he will look towards the inside line, and Jack Simpson will simply follow on through. So Glenbury has to deal with all the difficult things, and he essentially punches a hole in the air for Jack Simpson to follow through, and they remain like rams that have locked horns, and this one could go either way.
And now as we get through onto those final 20 minutes in full, 16 laps deep, and Jack Simpson going for the send potentially here. He's closing in on Bury. He's going to make his way through onto Blanchimont, and soon to be judging whether he's going for the bus stop chicane. It's going to be a big waiting game here, I think, for Simpson. He knows Bury has peak pace, otherwise he wouldn't have got past Vernon Higgs, but do they have the same level of pace? And the level of consistency, I think, is more the question here. Simpson and Bury going to be proving to potentially be the fight of the race. The way we'll keep an eye.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think Glenbury was very strong out off the exit of the final corner, and that essentially just, you know, it put Jack Simpson off of going for the move, which he really likes to do, down in towards La Source. And this is what I like about, you know, seeing drivers I'm not familiar with whatsoever, as I get first impressions of them. Jack Simpson, what an aggressive driver. He wants to go for the move as soon as he can, and that seems to be the opportunity. Headed down the Camel Straight once more as he'll look towards the inside line. This is to complete the recovery drive. Glenbury won't give this one up too easily. They're side by side through the chicane, and this is brilliant racing between the pair of them. Simpson will have to yield for the time being. Great defensive driving for the Mercedes, but it is clear to see who has got the pace advantage.
He's going to be keeping it fast and consistent now as we head through into lap 17 and into this crucial final phase. Now, at this point of the race, when you get to around the 10-15 a minute mark, drivers are going to have to be making those judgment calls, particularly the judgment call about whether you want to continue fighting or if you want to back off and secure the position that you have. Take, for example, Stevie Mack. He's got a massive gap next to Vernon Higgs in third place, so the best thing that he can do here is just keep consistent, run through to the finish, keep himself out of trouble, and secure a strong P4, especially because Worley is over 20 seconds, or nearly 20 seconds away. Meanwhile, you look at someone at George BL, he's on to the back of David Brown, and you can bet these two are going to be fighting tooth and nail to the end, or until someone makes a crucial mistake. Wrench as well, getting past Worley, as Worley goes a little bit deep, and an unforced error is going to open the doors for the McLaren to get into P5. And all of these fights are happening simultaneously as we return to the fore. And Simpson is going to be going narrow. Bury is going to squeeze him narrow as much as he possibly can. He knows what's coming. And they go side by side into the bus stop chicane. Bury still committed as we go through the second half and the final corner. Both of them drag racing each other here. Simpson is going to get a slightly better exit. And he's going to confirm the top spot. Question is, can he hold it? Bury going very wide and trying to potentially get a switchback onto the inside line here. Very smoothly done, but in the end Simpson just has full command of the corner, and even with Bury's slightly better exit, he's going to be holding the line at least until the Camel Straight.
Still an opportunity though for Glenbury. However, he's had this opportunity twice before in this race and he's not taking it as they head down the Camel Straight once more. Jack Simpson, we are riding on board with the Lamborghini Huracan, fresh off of the Spa 24 Hours win. For the very first time in Lamborghini's history. Looks like history is going to repeat itself already with Jack Simpson here if he can hang on to the lead. We are approaching now the last quarter of this race, and Glenbury is not close enough to make the move in towards the Lacombe chicane. And now Jack Simpson, after spinning on lap number 2, being relegated to around about 7th or 8th position, has completed an expert recovery drive, and he's just got to bring it home.
Yeah, now we do have about 8 laps left on the clock as we are well into lap 18 here. And most of the fights have started to subside. Most drivers have now chosen and elected to take their own sort of defensive positions around the course. They're not having to go too hard at this point because they just want to keep things smooth and simple. Now, like Brown could be fighting onto the back of George BL, but he's getting more time loss as he goes through, so it might be better just to make sure he secures his position and defends against Fitton if he has to. So I think that front fight is going to be all but stationary, as Bury is not one to shy away from a challenge, even against the likes of Jack Simpson. As he gains more time, Bury's going to be pushing himself, we know that much.
Absolutely. Glenn Bury has really been quite, I gotta say, quite passive though in his attack, in his fights with other drivers, and has definitely had the opportunity to take the battle to Jack Simpson last time by down the Kemmel Straight. He just didn't take it, and he had a really good exit off of La Source, and he did exactly what you said he would do. He went wide through the corner and then prioritized a good exit to then put the pressure onto the Lamborghini, but then didn't take the opportunity to go for the move. And you can't rely on Jack Simpson to make another mistake like he did, because now there's no pressure. And look at the closest car. Dingo is the car closest to him ahead on circuit. He's through Puon, which is about a minute's lap time. So yeah, really well done from Jack Simpson. I think Glenn Bury missed opportunity here. However, he's got the pace on Bailey, Vernon Higgs, and I'm quite certain a second place finish is certainly not going to be to the disappointment of Bury here.
Well, looking very smooth indeed. We're just taking a moment with Dingo, and we are just going to take a little bit of a moment to sort of reflect on the season thus far, as we could potentially have our final decider round going into the next round here, as Wrench is unfortunately behind Vernon Higgs at this point and unlikely to make his way forward past, and with the 8 points difference that he desires, it's going to be a little bit odd. And I have got very used to these Mondays, and I say, as we come to the end of the season, I wanted to say, first off, from everyone here, the team at Driveline, we're extremely appreciative of the opportunity from the team over at RAF Lightnings to reach out to us, and we collaborated together to bring the broadcast here to you for the UKAF ACC Championship. Hopefully, we can bring more to you in the future. I know that there may be opportunities on the horizon, but not going to speak out of turn just yet. I think those opportunities will speak for themselves in due time when they come across. Either way, very, very grateful to the team over there and to everyone who makes these possible. The viewers watching at home, to the racers who currently join us on track. Although, saying that, looks like Dingo is having a bit of a problem. Yeah, what happened, actually? Let's wind back the clocks, as it looks like he's had a major collision. That car's looking certainly worse for wear.
Well, let's see what's happened as he heads through Eau Rouge and Radion. This looks to be business as normal. Oh dear. I think that might have been a hardware issue. It didn't seem like there was any effort to get the car stopped, and then he's now into the pit lane. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what has gone on there with Dingo. I think he must have had some sort of wheel glitch, because there was no fight in that whatsoever.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's going to return to the pits now.
Yeah, unfortunate. But I don't think he'll get back out on circuit. We've only got 11.5 minutes left in this race. So I'd imagine that it is going to be 13 finishers in at this one. Very unfortunate for Dingo.
Smoothly does it as we get into this final phase. And so we do have some drivers who have kept things quiet for us. Like Fitton, for example, he's been slowly lying in wait. Eventually he's going to come up to the back of David Brown, but he's just kept things smooth, and he's not really caused much of a fuss or any trouble. And that's sometimes the way to be.
Yeah, if you're gaining positions, then why the hell not just relax, take it easy, and you can do your absolute best to pick up some vital points that you might need in your own individual battles. And when, you know, a lot of the drivers who have been turning up, some of them are missing from this one, I would imagine, you know, these are the prime opportunities to pick up points, and you've just got to relax and really keep it simple. It's an hour-long race, and if you're going willy-nilly on the first couple of laps and you're going to find yourself in the wall like some drivers did, keep it quiet, keep it chill, and you can find yourself in a decent top 10 position, picking up some decent points with just over 10 minutes left to go. All he's really got to do is bring it on home, although it's a little bit of there's a car coming a little bit closer to him, in front of him. That is David Brown. We could see a nice fight between them, but nevertheless, improving on your position, I think you've got to take that as a win.
Yeah, so take the wins in your own races where you can get them. So you could get a win on track, but sometimes just gaining positions is a win in and of itself. Fitton started 11th, now P8, and looking to be taking a positive result home, and not the only one either. We could look as well at David Brown. He's made up 6 positions, so he's even bigger of a winner than the driver who's currently chasing him. Worley as well, +4. Stevie Mack +3. Vernon Higgs +3. We do have, of course, a couple of winners, but also some losers as well. Peter Davidson being sort of the worst off. He's dropped 9 positions in this whole ordeal. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever side of the equation you are on, racing is a zero-sum game. For someone to win, someone has to lose. So where you have the likes of a David Brown, you're going to have a Davidson. And again, it's sometimes just how it is.
Yeah, so sometimes it just comes down to sheer luck. You know, Davidson at the top of Eau Rouge just saw a Lamborghini in front of him and thought, right, what can I do here? And, you know, it's just unfortunate that is how the races pans out. And he had a massive, massive hit to the wall. And even more so, I mean, Jack Simpson didn't have any collision whatsoever. He just kind of binned it through Raddy on himself. But, you know, stopped in the middle of the circuit, then just got back going. But Peter Davidson was right into the wall and had to get his car back into the pit lane somehow. And it's unfortunate that he is now down in 12th position, losing a number of spots in this race. The same goes for Dingo, starting this race in a pretty solid P8. Rose his way up through the field ever so slightly. I think he was in 5th position at one point, I want to say. And now he's down in 14th after his incident. It's good to see him back out on circuit though. But nevertheless, you know, you're absolutely right. For someone to win, someone's got to lose.
And with a loser comes a win in an unexpected place. Dingo has returned to the track, folks. He returns now, and he is going to be making his way at least to the end of the line. And what a victory that. Sometimes the victory is just making it to the end, so Dingo, credit to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier when, you know, the cards are stacked against you. You've had an incident somewhere along the road. It can be a very, very difficult fight mentally to get back in the car and get back going. So yeah, big ups to anyone who is still racing here, especially the likes of Davidson, Steele, Dingo, who have all had incidents early on in some cases. For Davidson and Steele, they were done on lap 1 and 2. They kept it going. They've come back out on circuit, and they've, you know, even if they're not going to be achieving much, they've not really been involved in any fights, you're still learning with every turn of the wheel and every braking zone you approach. So yeah, shout out to them once more.
And with that, let's take stock of where we currently reside. With about 3 laps to go here, Simpson, of course, leads, having made a meteoric rise to the top, having had an issue earlier. He's really done a massive recovery job and currently stands at the top of the order. And now is going to be a bit of a fight potentially for P3s. Glenbury is going to be second, but Vernon Higgs a couple of seconds away in third. Could challenge that. Stevie Mack and David Wrench complete your top 5, with Wrench still trying to charge forward. He's made up a couple of seconds every couple of laps or so, but it's not going to be enough, it looks like. So he's going to have to make a judgment call, as Worley is in 6th. Brown, Fitton, Lee and Lua make it through into the top 10, and then it's George Biel, Peter Davidson and Matt Steele alongside Dingo returning to finish the race off.
Yeah, lots and lots of drivers, lots of different stories that we have had so far today, and I think you know, when a grid isn't as large as some of the fields that you typically see in these organized races, I've commentated races with 40 drivers, 50 drivers on the grid. It can get very hectic and can make for some great racing. But I feel like some of the more special ones, the more special races you get is when the grid is smaller, but the quality hasn't been impacted whatsoever. And we've certainly had that tonight. It has been a very fun race to commentate over. And even though the grid is small, they've all put up a great show for us. And it's just nice and fun. I think all these guys, that is the main thing. They're just having fun today. So, yeah, well done to all the drivers. Now we are 5 minutes from the end of this one. It has been a hell of a ride, I've got to say.
Yeah, really impressed with them all. And 5 minutes to go. We'll see who has the final push and the final say in all of this. I'm really impressed with so many drivers out there. And I know that we are taking final calls for a lot of it, but in all of this, a lot of drivers have a lot to be proud of, not just in this single race, but season-wide. And we've seen some rises and falls throughout the season of certain drivers, but I've got to say, everyone who shows up to this championship, whether that's one race or 10, whether that is with success or with a middling or low result, even just to say making it to the track is a win in its own right.
You're absolutely right. And in this heat, God, I certainly couldn't have made it on the circuit. I would have been withdrawing my entrance from the to the start of the race as soon as it started, or before it even started, because it is just too hot to be sim racing. So yeah, I just can't say it enough, really. Just shout out to all the drivers who have made a great race tonight, and also shout out to all the people in the chat who have been consistently talking. And I've just really all I've seen in the chat is just people loving Dingo 200. Someone saying he's just like a phoenix, he rises again. You're absolutely right. How poetic, really. And a position still on the cards. I mean, he's 4.2 behind Matt Steele. That's a big ask for Dingo, but still possible. There's a car, I think, off the road. That is, oh no. Wow, well, there you go. Dingo's through on Matt Steele, who has had a spin down at the Lake Chicane, and that has got to be one of the worst cases of the commentator's curse I've ever put on someone.
If I speak here, I refuse to even render a sentence in response to that. But what I will say is the caster's curse, the commentator's curse, however you want to phrase it, it is alive and well. Sorry, Steele. No hard feelings. It's just the nature of the beast. For the love of the game at this point. Davidson yielding to a couple of yellow flags, and yeah, unfortunately looking real worse for wear. He's clearly had a couple of offs, or at least an altercation with a barrier of some kind. As yeah, that car looks like it's limping more than it's racing.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that exact phrase, worse for wear, right as you said it, and that is really the only way to describe that McLaren. But Bailey Vernon Higgs has kept his McLaren very nice and tidy, and has also got a Mercedes right in front of it. So I wonder which car I would rather be in. It's got to be this one here, the number 50 McLaren, who has got Bury in his sights, and of course he wants to be picking up every single point that he can in the championship. Bury doesn't have that pressure. He's not in a title fight like Vernon Higgs is, so there is certainly two stories left to be told with a minute and a half in this race, a second between them. It'll certainly be a difficult gap for Vernon Higgs to overcome, but still, it could be a very good fight to the end.
Yeah, it's a final fight, really, as it now comes to a head. Simpson's going to be starting the final of the lap of the race any minute now, but Vernon Higgs is the guy to watch, as Bury is going to be close in his crosshairs. Let's keep it with him.
Yeah, I mean, what a run through Lafagna. Right as I said once more that it's going to be a difficult task for Vernon Higgs to close the gap. he just has a monstrous run through Lafania. Bury makes a mistake, runs wide through the first part of the chicane, and now Vernon Higgs is right in the wheel tracks of the Mercedes. He's got him in his crosshairs. Will he look to the outside line or remain patient as Jack Simpson starts the final lap of the race? Glenn Bury's deep. Glenn Bury, too late on the brakes, runs it very, very deep through the final corner, cuts the chicane, and will cede the position to Bailey Vernon Higgs. And like we saw right at the start of the race between these two, Vernon Higgs with an unforced error, Glenn Bury doing the exact same.
And what a showing there. That is the kind of racing that we want to see again. That unforced error, there's no foul play, it's just good, clean, sportsmanlike driving. And throughout all of this, there has been a healthy dose of respect to all drivers involved. Smoothly does it, and what a showing from all. We do have David Wrench going onto the back of Stevie Mack, so P4 could still be on the cards for current championship holder. It's not going to be realistic to expect him to get that 8 points plus, so the championship will survive another round at least, but there could still be chance for damage control and to minimise losses as Wrench is coming up to the back of Stevie Mack, heading down through Eau Rouge and now Radion.
Yeah, Wrench has really been catching a rate of knots on the back of his fellow McLaren as they head through on towards the Kemmel Straight for the final time in this race. The white flag has dropped. It's just up to Jack Simpson to bring the car home as now in towards the chicane they go. There was no chance of a move there for David Wrench. However, he's closed critical tenths of a second to the back of Stevie Mack. And through Malmedy they go. You can see the pressure that Stevie Mack is feeling at the minute is now down in towards Rivage Corner. It's got a couple of names. This corner, there's certainly an opportunity for David Wrench. Not quite now, but I'd imagine Blanchimont is where he's going to pull the trigger and go for the move right at the death of this race.
But as we close things out here, of course there is the fight at the back, but we've got to see him at least cross the line. Jack Simpson, he's had the start at the strong point, he's fallen, but now he comes back on top. As he comes across the line, that is Jack Simpson taking top honours. Bury is going to have a major issue though. Looks like he's only rolling now. I think he's run out of fuel. He's getting the yellows. He's in trouble.
Oh, no.
He's in serious trouble here. He's not going to make it.
Oh, it's slightly uphill as well.
You see, he's in gear 6. He's trying to minimise his resistance. Come on, Bury. So close. Make it home. Even if you have to cut, you do what you got to make it to the end of the race. It's so close.
He's okay.
Blow into the mic. Come on, blow him along.
But Stevie Mack's approaching.
Mackey's coming. And Wrench.
Oh my God. Through the final corner they go.
I feel like we're just seeing the reenactment of cars.
No!
Mack and Wrench are going to steal third and fourth under his nose, and he barely rolls across the line. He barely rolls. Wait, no, he's not even.
No.
He's stopped.
Oh, he's done it.
On
okay.
No. He stopped on the line.
No.
He's back to the pits. He's DNFing.
That's tragic.
No.
He should have waited for someone.
He stopped
push across
on the line.
That's tragic.
You can't write this. You can't write this. I'm sorry. What? He literally was halfway across the line when his car finally conked out. I would have waited. I would have waited there just to get a nudge. Oh, poor
Someone would have
Bury.
seen it. I'm sure someone would have been in a Discord call with him maybe, and he would have been crying, no, please give me a push. But oh, there we go. That is so sad for him. I think 8th place is where he will finish because he was a lap ahead of anyone else further down the order. But what would have been a podium finish for him turns into P8. That is gut-wrenching. Right on the line, stopping. Even a 5th position would have been nice for him. You know, being overtaken by Mack and Wrench, that was inevitable. But if he just had that extra push across the line, he would have been okay. That's tragic.
That is tragic indeed. Unfortunately, it looks like my camera has conked out. wasn't able to pick that up, but I think that's for the best because I am currently more liquid than I am solid. I've been sweating absolutely terribly, and I don't think that would be a pretty sight for the cameras. But even so, this is where we, as the commentary team, take our leave, at least for this evening, but of course, we do have 2 more rounds to go, so join us same time next week as we head to Barcelona and then Mount Panorama to finish things off, as Bathurst, a grueling gauntlet that it is, will be home to our finale of the season. Dan, of course, thank you very much for joining us, especially on short notice as well. I know myself and Nathan are both extremely grateful to have you here. I mean, what did you think of tonight?
What a race! That was incredible, honestly. It was very fun to come on here. And yeah, I'm very happy that I took Nathan's invitation to just come along for tonight. I'd imagine he will be back for the next race. But, you know, in saying that, I had a great time here.
And with that, that's where we're going to wrap up. So thank you again, Dan. You've been absolutely amazing. And we will see you folks at home same time next week as we head to Barcelona for the penultimate round and the championship sealing one, heading into the last crucial moments of the season. But for now, folks, take care, thank you very much, and goodbye.